The Haunting of Hill House Review. This is a Netflix original series consisting of 10 episodes. Each episode is roughly 50 minutes in length, and it is actually a pretty easy binge. So this is a horror series. It's not particularly a limited series, but it does kind of have an overall arc that does wrap up by the conclusion of the season. So with this, we follow a family across, sort of a different time. So it's split between flashbacks and the modern present. And basically, the present time is the main focus of what's going on, but they do a great job of developing almost two stories to this overall tale. Basically, you have the family when they're young, the kids coming into this hill house, this beautiful mansion. It's kind of run down, but the whole goal is for them to revamp it and basically make this a home that they can sell to actually make a profit and buy their fantasy home. So there's some problems involved, though. Things are quiet. People, they're a little bit eerie when they're coming into this place. They don't quite understand, the grounds and everything like that. So they're trying to get an idea of the shape this property is in. And the horror slowly starts to build up. And this isn't a traditional horror tale. It focuses more on what I'd call terror. So this is actually a really terrifying and well-developed season. I was actually blown away by it. Most horror shows and movies I'm not really too affected by. I love the Conjuring series, and it's not quite the same as that, as this one focuses on things that really do affect a certain individual, and again, that terror of it. You feel chilled, and at least I did. I even had some trouble sleeping some nights after watching it, like late, and it just like burned in the mind just how intense this show can actually be, and it was seriously just fantastic. So going back to the family, we've got the family in the past. That's kind of the start of it. They're getting in, they're learning things. And then we have the family in the present. They've all got problems. They've all got lifetime issues due to being in this house. Some deny it, some have grown past it, and some of them are still haunted by it. Now there's a certain time of which these events around the house are starting to actually come back into the minds of people. They're starting to see certain things and feel different aspects about this house and the sort of situation and the lingering effect of it. Their father is still very much a broken man, and it kind of starts when one of the youngest two they're twins, and they're very connected. There's certain mystical elements to the story too, as far as how the characters are tied together, which was great. Actually, I really liked it. It feels grounded, but yet still has that sense of enough of a power to kind of connect them to the house in new and interesting ways. We'll go over that more in a second. So yes, the youngest, the little girl, she's, well, an adult now, but in the background, when they're going into the previous kind of life, when they were young and living at the house, she is having the most problems. She's been the most plagued by this, and it sort of kicks off the events with her giving a call to the family members about her, wanting to go back, being drawn back to this house, and that's sort of how everything goes. There's a certain big event that happens that sort of draws the entire family together. So we have the two twins, we have the father, there was the mother in the early storyline, and then we also have two other women and the son, the twins, male and female. Cool. So it's a very large family, and every episode in the series actually picks a particular family member and sort of focuses on them. And it may sound a little bit convoluted and a little bit of a mess in that regard, but they actually do a really good job of tying all of the events together. So you really do or should watch this, as a binge if possible, or as close together, because events in the earlier episodes actually do get perfectly tied together with events in later episodes. You get to see the different perspectives for each individual within each of the separate episodes. You get a large cast and a plethora of people interacting per episode. When the terror does happen, it's usually in individual kind of situations earlier on, and then it becomes more of a group-based activity. So when they start, the terror for each individual, some of them think they're seeing things, some of them know what's actually happening, and that's a build-up for the story. And you're seeing this character kind of going through the day or, the months leading up to this event and behind their actions. So you actually get to see how they got to a certain point and how they interact with the character in another situation. And while that's going on in the present, you're also seeing that in the past too. You're seeing this whole past story, and they kind of run parallel to each other because they're perfectly connected in an overall arc, and it was beautifully well done in that regard. It's very, very creative. It was well shot. It looks really good. Some of the camera work is fantastic. There's like these long one-shot scenes where they're kind of going around the whole family while they're arguing or discussing things, and I thought that was really beautifully well done. The terror is great. It's spooky. Some of the, I guess, visions or sort of apparitions and stuff are really well presented. They look creepy as hell. They scare you. They kind of, I liked a lot of it wasn't jump scares. They weren't trying to jump scare you in this. They wanted you to actually feel a sense of fear. And you'd just be sitting there and you'd be like watching the main action, and then in the background you're like, what is that going on? Or sometimes it's like an innocent scene, and then they'll go back to it, and they'll be like, oh, this wasn't actually an innocent scene. There was actually something going on in the background of it that you might not have noticed because you were just taking it in. And the way that it wraps together is actually really great. So with this being 10 episodes, I thought 8 of them were just perfect. Not to say the rest were bad in any regard. It just kind of seemed like it was really centered around these episodes, and then the last 2 were kind of a trail off, just sort of wrapping it up and giving final context in the whole situation. I really liked the parents element to it, as they were trying to deal with this problem that is like beyond what they were capable of. They didn't want to believe what was happening. Their kids were being plagued by things, and you get to see a good range too of how it would affect different people, with the younger people being more susceptible to it or understanding, what is actually going on, or actually being like, oh my god, there's this thing. And then there's the adults kind of trying to deny it, and then seeing something actually going on is pretty crazy. And then you've got the middle kids, which are like, young enough to have an understanding, something's weird, but also to be like, I don't really believe in this, and then sort of almost forgetting it over time, but it's still having a lingering effect over the overall family. And seeing all those different perspectives is great. And I love the connections between them, whether they were young or old. I thought there was great chemistry between the cast members and basically what was happening. Everybody came together in a cohesive way. And it was very entertaining to see them try to survive, I guess, to a certain degree, and figure out what exactly was going on as they sort of realize the situation that they're in and how everybody is connected in this overall arcing story. And it's just creepy as hell. Really well done. I thought the pacing was excellent, mixed with the beautiful cinematography. The house was hella creepy. They had a wide selection of characters, whether they were ghastly people trying to scare or cause problems. And the material is very dark, it's very intense, and it's kind of interesting how they all cope with it to a degree, and how they all, connect to each other and keep on going. I thought it was just wonderfully well done overall. Very, very great series that I thoroughly enjoyed. One of the best Netflix originals, actually. At least I think so. And again, not the horror, not the jump scares you're used to, but an actual sense of terror. And you have to give it a little bit of time to get going. But it really did, capture my attention the full way through. And it was just a creepy series. Really well done. You should be scared, you should be terrified, and you should also see a bit of a psychological thing as to how this presence kind of feeds on people, this house and its history. Beautiful house too, really well detailed, the whole surrounding of it, the people involved with it, the spookier kind of things that go on, and again those dark things, because the house does fight back. It doesn't like to be neglected, and I think it definitely played out well. Again, it's really hard, and that's one of the things I complain about in other Netflix shows is flashbacks. They seem to do a lot of it, but in this one it really did work out perfectly well, giving us enough details of the history of it so that we could see how that was affecting the present, and then once it came together to wrap up, it really did feel like a cohesive piece of connecting both the past with the present and everything in between, and you got full motivation for the characters, what was going on. It was sad, it was intense. There was, I guess, a little bit of funny parts to it. They had a good sense of humor, but overall, just a beautifully well done original series. I'd give it a 9.2 out of 10, and you can read my full review in the description below. But yeah, generally, I definitely suggest watching this and as binged as possible, so that you're remembering each of the key points throughout the series, and that it connects properly when you do get to the ending, so everything makes sense and you understand everything that happens. You get that this point connects with this point, and be like, oh, I remember that moment from that moment, and then it all comes together in a beautiful way that I really did enjoy. I think they nailed it with this one. It's a great, scary type of film for people that like the horror, but again, it's not, scare you, jump out and scare you. It's actually, going for your mind and really, really emotionally scarring, actually. There's one scene where it was just really dark how it wrapped up and how the whole time circle came together. It was really good. That's the Haunting Hill House. Great Netflix original series.